Wherever I sing, even if it's at the Metropolitan Opera, I feel like at least 50% of the audience has never heard a countertenor before. And if you're outside of the opera house in real life, you know, on the street, I would say even 90% of people have no idea what a countertenor is. But they've heard Michael Jackson, and they've heard Prince, and they've heard, you know, Justin Timberlake, and all the people who sing in a falsetto voice. And so it's both a familiar and a foreign register in some ways. I've used that to my advantage to kind of draw people in and give them a way to connect immediately, at first through their shock, and then as they listen, hopefully through the beauty of what we're able to create. I'm Anthony Roth Costanzo, and I'm a countertenor, opera singer, producer here in New York City.
Mozart, voi che sapete?
I began performing professionally when I was 11 years old, first in Broadway, and then by the time I was 13, I started doing opera, and so my voice was starting to change, but I didn't even know it. And someone around the opera world said, "Are you a countertenor?" And I said, "Well, what is that? I don't know." And I started listening to the legacy of Alfred Deller, Russell Oberlin, and other countertenors since then in our modern times. And I never thought about needing to feel masculine by being low. In fact, I never associated pitch with gender in that way. And part of that is to do with my very sophisticated parents who were psychologists and very supportive parents. I've never worried about being gay in opera or trying to hide it or anything like that, and figured that if people had a problem with it, I just wouldn't get hired there. When I first did Akhnaten, this opera by Philip Glass at the Metropolitan Opera, and the director asked me to be naked, I thought, okay, I better get in good shape, because if anyone asked you to be naked in front of 4,000 people a night, you'd want to be in the best shape you could. And I enjoy it. I enjoy the mental release. It's a place where I can think. The audience was captivated, and it became more of a ritual. And the ritualistic aspect of it actually is very intimate. And it's another way to kind of connect to the audience, to draw them in, to make them see your vulnerability, and then to take them on a journey with you from that place. The director asked me to shave my head, and then we wanted to do what they authentically did in ancient Egypt. So because I was naked, we waxed my entire body, which is what they did. They valued hairlessness. They shaved their heads. The hairlessness was sort of godliness. And it does transform you. And you know, when I would go to the grocery store, bald and with no hair on my arms, I feel like an alien. But when I stepped onto the stage as Akhnaten, I felt like I was him. It's very common in France for people to be naked on stage, for example. In America, it's much more controversial. This was the first time at the Metropolitan Opera a man had appeared fully naked. What I love about performing is that it expresses the human being you are. I think for most people, it's not how well it's executed technically, it's how meaningful it is. When I was in graduate school, I found out that I had thyroid cancer by chance, and you can see this little scar still from where they took out my thyroid. And the thing about the thyroid is that it sits on top of all your vocal nerves. So it put into jeopardy would I still be able to sing afterwards or not. And my doctor, I was worried so much with him about, well, what if you cut this? Will I be able to do that? And at some point he said, you know, we don't have to take it out, but if we don't, eventually you'll die. So it became a question of, am I defined only by my ability to make sound, or am I also defined by my ability to have an impact? And now I'm able to sing the way that I am. So, but yeah, I can't say I look back at having cancer and the whole experience as negative. In fact, I look at it as such a positive, affirming experience. I am really ambitious and I'm driven and I'm focused. So I never have a good time because I'm anxious to make things. I've been disciplined about not having alcohol and about sleeping 8 hours a night. It's always a time to reinvent opera, I think. It's not just the moment we're in or that it's dying. Or opera, in its heyday, was often responding to the culture and the community that it was in. And now we treat it with such white gloves, as if it's something special. Over the pandemic, I worked with the New York Philharmonic to create this initiative, Bandwagon, and I have this idea to have a pickup truck that went all throughout New York and to present these concerts, completely spontaneous pop-up concerts. And that would mean that it's not audiences who bought tickets who knew the New York Philharmonic, but rather just people we encountered on the street. And the joy that music was able to bring them, especially in this time of silence of the pandemic, was very, very powerful. When I created Glass Handel, which was this project where I combined Philip Glass's music with Handel's music, I knew that in order for it to have a wider reach, I wanted to work with artists like Tilda Swinton, Mickalene Thomas, painters and filmmakers who were not as well versed in opera, but could respond as artists to that sound world and make something wild, pop art, exploration of the music, whether it be Tilda Swinton's dogs looking like they were experiencing the joy of Handel on the beach, or whether it was a storytelling narrative like that video of James Ivory's where I appear as a knight. So, it was a digital and contemporary way to interpret the music through the eyes of artists who were respected by other audiences. If you've never experienced opera, I would say, don't worry if you don't understand the language. Expect to be bored for at least 15 minutes and know that after 15 minutes, you might find it less boring. And the other thing I'd say is, remember that it's a tightrope act. It's very difficult to sing opera, and so once you tap into how physically demanding it is, it's kind of like watching the Olympics, and actually everything you need to know is right in front of you, and the story plays out on the stage, the music speaks for itself. So you might not like every opera you go to, but it's definitely worth going because some will change your life.